Hey y'all, I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate and we're Real Estate Elevated. So today I'm actually not going to be talking to you about buying or selling a home. Instead, I'm going to talk about our rental market. So here are 6 tips if you are thinking about renting because you're moving here from somewhere else and you want to kind of get a feel for the market before you buy. So the first big question is you want to talk to your agent about how rentals work in their market. I've worked with a lot of clients who are coming from other metros where those agents can actually build a really strong business just off of rentals because the seller or the landlord typically is actually paying a pretty sizable amount for their services. Here we don't really see that as much, so it's really important to talk to your agent and make sure there's not an associated fee that needs to be worked out up front. It's always good to know what you're paying for and what services are going to be provided, as well as what are norms in this particular market. The second thing is you want to use services like MLS, the multiple listing service, to get real-time listings and data. This goes for both whether you're buying and selling or you're finding rentals. But with rentals, it's also good to open yourself up to third-party sites. Sometimes for sale by owners or for rent by owners, they're actually putting them on just those third-party sites, right? Because in MLS, you have to be associated with an agent. So if there's not a real estate agent associated with the listing of that rental, you're only going to find it in the third-party site. The one caveat to the third-party site that you're not going to see with MLS is the fact that scams can happen. So with those third-party sites, there's not as much vetting that goes into place. So I just kind of want to tell you guys to be really careful, double check information. We always say trust but verify because we actually have seen a lot of scams in the last few years on those third-party sites where folks have actually procured other listings, photos, and information, and they're now passing it off as though they are the owner or the property manager. The third one is make sure you are not one of 15 or more applications that are in the queue. So in North Carolina, just because you pay an application fee doesn't mean you're automatically going to get it back if you don't become the next renter. So always ask whoever the property manager is, whoever's obtaining those funds. Number one, is this non-refundable? In most cases it's going to be. And also, what number are you in the queue of people who have actually put in their applications? If you are number one, is it first come, first serve, or are they going to look at all the different applicants and then kind of choose from there? It's really important to know this because you don't want to pay $150, $250 over and over and over again because that adds up rather quick. So keep in mind to ask that question. The fourth thing, and this is a big one, ask if the photos are current. We see this kind of rinse and repeat process with rentals where sometimes they'll use photos that are actually now 10 years old because they've had the same renter for a long period. So they're just kind of reusing the original photos. Guarantee the home does not look like it's in that condition anymore. So that's a big one. If the photos seem a little dated or wonky, ask them if they're recent photos. Another thing to ask about is the previous tenants. So obviously there's only so much they can say, but you want to ask about, did they allow pets or smoking in the previous rental agreement? And the reason for that is sometimes when you're moving here, smell is not something that transfers through the computer. So you want to know if there was wear and tear that could be something you're not aware of until you actually physically step foot in the property. You want to know if that's present because some of those can be really difficult to get rid of. There was actually a rental one time that thankfully we did go see in person, but the clients found a property, it fit the criteria to a T. We went in and we immediately smelled a cat smell. It was pretty severe. I think you kind of know what I'm referencing here. Come to find out from the neighbors, the previous person who had been in there had about 20 different male cats that definitely marked their territory, and it had actually soaked down to the pad that was below. So while it was brand new carpet, they didn't replace the subflooring and the pads, and unfortunately that smell was permeating everywhere. It was awful. And if the clients hadn't had an agent that was helping to kind of walk them through the process, they may have actually signed up for a 12-month lease, and then they would have been stuck with that particular property and that particular problem. Another thing to look at is make sure you read through the lease with an agent. You always want to know you're out. So what is the clause that you're going to actually have to use in order to file your notice, to be able to vacate the property? And then what other things are you going to have to be required to do, like carpet replacement, carpet cleaning, paying for a deep clean of any kind? You want to make sure if there's pet fees, are they non-refundable or are they just a deposit that if the pet damages, you get those back? What's the the process for release? How quick is it? I've seen folks get into a pickle sometimes where they're expecting that deposit to be made so they can move on to the next property, and unfortunately it does tend to get tied up and does not get released very quickly. So nutshell, guys, just make sure you're vetting all of the information that's provided. Make sure you're using an agent that knows our market, and make sure the information that's being presented is accurate and truthful. I'm Richardson with Relevate, and we'll see you on our next episode.